I feel that the poorest country is.
We know Mother Teresa as the modern saint, a woman whose name has represented love and compassion, who helped thousands of people out of the kindness of her own heart. If she existed today, Mother Teresa would possibly be cancelled.
I personally am most unworthy.
Because according to many testimonies, Mother Teresa baptized people of different faiths when they were too weak to give consent. That she spoke out against abortion despite all the tragic circumstances. That she took money from extremely shady people, and of course, some even speculate that she didn't even believe in God. So today we will attempt to answer together with you, Night Fam, was Mother Teresa a saint or a sinner? And to truly answer that question, we must first look at the life she led. Because for over 70 years, Mother Teresa worked in and founded many charities across the world, helping thousands of people. It is even believed she performed miracles, with a simple prayer curing people with cancer and other dangerous illnesses. Every year she also managed to raise millions of dollars to fund her charities, to feed and clothe the sick and the poor. She even won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1979. But what many people didn't realize then was that this kind and saintly figure certainly was not beyond criticism. Because during her career, many people who took a closer look at her work started to notice some very questionable things. Let's start with her charities, for example. Teresa was known to bring in about $30 million every year through donations and fundraisers. However, her charities never seemed to receive that money. Despite all these resources, the facilities she started up were always in very poor condition and maintained by people with no medical training. If Teresa's charity had millions in the bank, how come her sisters had to reuse dirty needles and keep people in extremely poor conditions? Where was all that money going? Even today, years after Teresa's death, all this money is still being held by the Vatican, with no clear indication of what they're used for. Is it possible that Mother Teresa knew about the discrepancy and turned a blind eye to it? Or was she also just a victim? An innocent vessel? Well, there is an answer to that coming soon. Because the unfortunate thing was, a lot of that money came from very questionable people. Corrupt politicians, tycoons, even dictators. All of them loved their chance to donate to Mother Teresa. They likely just used her to make themselves look better. Maybe even to shed some guilt about the terrible things they were doing behind the scenes. To put this into perspective, if this happened today with someone who's really famous, who was found to have links with controversial people, they would certainly be questioned, right?
They took heaps of money from the Duvalier family in Haiti, who probably gave the poor as hard a time as the poor have ever got. Heaps of money from them and justified their regime.
But we're only warming up. Mother Teresa was also known to support members of the church accused of terrible things. Like when Reverend Donald McGuire was accused of molesting children and was removed from his position, Mother Teresa wrote to the Jesuit order about her confidence and trust in McGuire. Not only did this instantly return him to service, but it also gave him the chance to hurt children for another 10 years. Just think about this for a second. Teresa had such power and influence over people and the church that she could reinstate a child molester. And that's exactly what her simple statement did. The more you look, the more it seems this woman of God wasn't the saint everyone made her out to be. Or perhaps she herself just was not aware of it. I mean, how can we reconcile the idea that the kind woman who has undoubtedly saved thousands of lives from hunger and homelessness would also go out of her way to say women cannot make choices about their own bodies, even if they were assaulted themselves? Perhaps not surprisingly, Mother Teresa was very open about being anti-abortion. That even in her Nobel Peace Prize speech, she called it the greatest destroyer of peace. Even when the abortions were taken by the victims of horrible abuse, this didn't make a difference in Mother Teresa's mind.
I feel that the poorest country is the country that has to kill the unborn child.
And when she was taking care of the dying, of people who could barely speak on their own behalf, she was known to baptize them or convert them to Christianity, even though they had no way of giving consent. To these people who were at the very end of their lives, she never gave them a chance to choose. And certainly many of those of different religions would not agree that this was fair. Just imagine being a Muslim and being baptized to become Christian right before you die. In essence, she sent them not to the afterlife they wanted or believed in, but to the one she believed was true. By now, with everything we've said, it's quite clear. There were many times that Mother Teresa placed her faith above the needs of the people she cared for. In the same way, it was that faith that fueled her good-hearted actions in the first place. And like we said at the beginning, if Mother Teresa existed today, she would be called out by today's youth for seemingly romanticizing painful things. And that brings us back to the horrible conditions she put sick people in. Because at the core of her faith, she believed all the pain and suffering the people in her care endured was a blessing.
And then she says, poverty is a gift from God. Suffering is a gift from God. Leprosy is a gift from God. The death of your child is because God loves the child.
To the point that since the conditions of her charities only made some patients sicker, they were denied the higher medical attention many of them badly needed. Once again, she made a choice for them. And possibly the most surprising of all, despite the preaching and beliefs she was spreading, Mother Teresa herself was having a crisis of faith. Through the numerous confessions and letters revealed after her death, Teresa noted feeling abandoned by God, even doubting if he existed in the first place. But as you know, GIfoBhm, Mother Teresa was still made a saint by the Church. And we cannot deny that Mother Teresa indeed spread good deeds and became a walking example of God's love to the world. Which now brings us back to our question. Was Mother Teresa a saint or a sinner? Well, in my opinion, she definitely was a sinner that was made a saint. And I think that leads me to the final words of this video. Because I made this video certainly not to badmouth Mother Teresa. No, in many ways she is the inspiration. The only thing I seek is the truth. And what I spoke about is the truth. And hopefully the truth has the power to inspire you, GIfoBhm. To show you that if even the saints of our world can be found to have been far from perfect, to have certainly made mistakes in their life, to have not been exactly flawless, then for me that means every single person in this world can become extraordinary.